What's good? So here I have a piece of music that I've put together for TV. At the moment, it's sitting in a library somewhere. I know it sounds like I don't know where it is, but I do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna play it, much like the other beats. I'm gonna go through all the little bits and pieces, the points that I think are important, and I'm gonna try and do it as quickly as possible. This is probably one of my most involved beats that I have. Let's just give it a play. Okay, so I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. I'll explain the arrangement first of all. Because it is something that went to TV, I needed to focus on keeping it to around about 2 minutes 30. This one is 2 minutes 15 seconds, which is perfect. The one thing that they do like is that when the track, it needs to build up. As you heard, it had all of those little bits and pieces, it built up slowly, and then there was an eventual drop. For this, which is a type of future bass, this is very, very typical. What isn't typical is right at the end, it just needs to stop. They don't want fading out, they don't want their music to fade out when it's going to TV. So when you're exporting it, it shouldn't be fading out. So let me just play the very last part of the track. And then it just ends. Okay, so let's just go through this systematically. So starting at the top, just have a sound, a loop here. So a loop going on. This is it, the entire way. This is some east-west. Very, very nice plugin. Here we go. Nice contact plugin. I was able to pick up my instruments there. There is an underlying instrument that plays along with it. Let me just see if I can find it. Here it is. And it's that low note. That I went and got a cello. So for this track, I tried to build a little mini orchestra in the beginning of the track. So once they both play together, it creates that nice orchestral feel. So that then just builds up into more instruments. Here, this is like with a lot of my other beats, there's a part of the beat that you kind of hear but you don't really hear, and it helps to build a little bit of stability in the beat. Okay. So those are our first three parts. Okay, and that's Flex. Flex has a lot of nice plugins. Yeah, and you can manipulate them as and how you need them. So with those three particular sounds, I didn't do too much to them. The two east-west VSTs I left as is. What's nice with some of these plugins in FL Studio and actually on all doors is that you have the ability to change things here on the actual plugin. That way, when it gets to mixing, you don't have a lot that you need to do. That's how I run it. I don't do the whole thing of make the entire beat then go back to mix the whole thing. I kind of do it as I go along. Right, so this Flex is a little bit different. I can hear there's a filter on it. So if I just remove everything, it's very much in your face, and you can even see where the volume is here. You always want to try and make sure that you balance out. Before we even start playing around here, you want to balance this out. This comes in super hot. I'm not going to play it because it's gonna mess up with whatever you're listening on. But it is super loud, right? And I wanted the sound, just not as it was. So I know I'm thinking through my work process here. I added some reverb. And it didn't do much. Then I wanted the filter, right? What I do with this filter to get the LFO effect, where it sounds like it's opening slowly, I go to the presets of the love filter, and I go to the low pass LFO, right? Then what I do, because it usually starts out here, you see this little circle here? It's usually here in the center. But when it's in the center, it's awfully closed. The filter is very closed. So I'm just going to drag it back to the center, and you can hear it. See, there it's closed, it's nice, but you don't actually ever get to hear it. It doesn't open up nicely. So round about here, in the top right hand, I don't even know how to explain this, but in this box here, at least when it opens up fully, and then it will go back to closing nicely, but then it'll open up. Okay. The thing about this, whenever you use the love filter LFO, you run the risk of making your track, you're making the volume of your track, of that instrument, unstable. So what I do is I just cap it off with a tube tech. So I've got the tube tech going. You can see it's not compressing hard. Actually, it might be. Yeah. It is. It's compressing quite hard. I'm trying to maintain and just contain what you're hearing there. And I mean, you can always use the parameters I'm using. What I like about the tube tech is that I get to feel the sound. I'm not working off parameters. You can even see with the knobs, they aren't like little 1, 2, 3 knobs. It's literally from 0 to -10 to -20. Same with the gain, it goes from 0, all of a sudden it's at +10. There's no, you just listen. You just listen, and wherever you feel it needs to be, you place it. Yeah, so that's what I do with what I did with the compressor here. It was mainly for containment. And this last EQ is doing absolutely nothing. So don't worry about that. It happens sometimes. I'm sure I tried something and it didn't work out. Yeah, so those are the first three sounds, right? Then we go into what's supposed to be a citrus but isn't playing at the moment. Let's figure out why. Cool. There we go. Now, with this was a little interesting. There are demo songs that come with FL Studio. I was listening to one of them, and they had it's always just stock plugins. And it's always so crazy what they're able to achieve just with the stock plugins for the demo songs. I mean, this is one of my dreams one day, is to have a demo song on FL Studio. Just holding fingers. Yeah. So with one of their Citrus presets, I was able to take the settings from it and then save it here. I saved it as chords. And what it allows me to do is to create that very typical EDM sounding set of chords. What I like about it, if I can just trigger, it's playing two notes at the same time. So okay. So as is, I think I've muted the filter. So we've got this chords modulation going on here. And all this is doing is turning one knob. If you have a look over here, you can see it's moving, the x-axis. As to what it's doing in the back end, I'm not sure. But what I like about it is that I'm able to open and close things quite nicely. So if you have a listen again, I can control it very, very nicely. Now for me to be able to create an envelope like this, that where it slowly opens and opens and opens and opens, what I do, the easiest way for me to do that is if I go back to the plugin itself. Here, the x-axis is what's moving. So I'll click it, move it, and then I'll go Tools, Last Tweaked, and then I'll ask for FL Studio to create an automation clip. Once I click there, this will pop up, but it will all be flat. Then you're gonna right click, and then you can set your these pointers over here, and then just drag and play around with it, and then from there you can just tweak things out. You should try it with literally every single synth, every single button, anything related to the LFO is gonna be cool. Yeah, just so you can play around and get some movement, right? So if I let everything play. Okay, yeah, cool. So next is, let's actually go into this, the chords. Yeah, let's see what I did with them. Again, just some containment. This is one of my loudest tracks. I've had to like dial it down on many situations. I remember playing it at a studio. It was very, very loud. And then I had to come back in and just revise the mix. It felt a little bit too much. But I mean, this is the nature of this genre. I'm sure compared to other songs in the same genre, it's probably not as loud. Anyway, moving along. Got some percussion going, some typical white noise. This is something I picked up back in my EDM days. This is a vocal sample. It's probably come from Exhale. Let's see if I've got an instance of Exhale in this project. Yeah, here we go. And Exhale's cool. There are some vocal samples where it's literally just that. So I remember this is an actual preset. As it is how the sound comes out. Yeah. So I'm just holding down the button and then the riser builds by itself. And then what I did when I had the MIDI down is I did the very same thing of going and clicking on the MIDI, coming across here, right clicking, and then hitting render and replace. And that's how I ended up getting pattern 6. If you have a look around, there are a couple of patterns, like there are a lot of patterns, and that just assists with CPU. Remember, this is a pretty big project. It assists with CPU, and it allows for you to manipulate audio in a very different way. It's not that easy to manipulate MIDI. For me to manipulate this, I have to change the notes. Whereas for me to manipulate this, I can do anything. I can add filters, I can chop it up, I can do whatever. So sometimes it's really cool just burning things down. So it was the same with this one. It's also just another riser. And you can see it's double time as compared to this one here. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it just helps to build with the build up. Next thing in this genre, there's the typical clap. And then that then changes into that's it. Now all those percussive elements put together, the riser, as well as these little effects here, these are all just little percussive effects. I usually add them in as the last thing I add in before I jump into the proper, the main part of the track. And that drop there, that is like, that you need to just make that your own. I have a bunch of sounds that I've just chopped and added and placed in here to create this. Alright, so now I'm gonna get into the actual drop. Okay, there's a hang of a lot going on here. I'll go through it as I created it. I'm pretty methodical. I start from top, and as I add, I kind of go down. That I picked up from my recent days when you are essentially forced to work in that way. So now it helps me to keep my things a little bit neat. So here we've got Nexus. Very nice, very nice, great setting. So I'm using jump chord. Jump chord is something I used to use when I was working on EDM like almost 10 years ago. So it's just been a staple go-to for the longest time. Now that effect that I get is just the volume knob opening and closing. So this is it without the volume knob moving. And this is it with the volume knob on automation. Right? Very clean. Open, close, open, close. That's it. And all I did was automate this here. If you have a look right here, Nexus 3, the volume, I did the same thing, last tweaked, create automation clip, and then I was able to create this, drew this one out, and then drew this one out as well. No, I drew out the one and then I copied it across. Okay, then same thing there. I just messed with the third step, and then it allowed me to get that skippy step for the next one. Okay, so that's your main jump chord. Now with this genre, I always try and keep my things jumpy. It's just moving around. It's one thing then the next, and the next thing then the next. So here in between, it's just flex. Sounds a bit light as I'm playing it, and I think it's because I've had them playing an octave away from each other. So yeah, just to give it a bit of body. I've got those trumpets playing all over the place. So now going into this flex, I haven't done much. Flex is one of those plugins that comes in quite hot already, so I'm always just bringing the volume down. Also, there's nothing else going on in the beat. That's if you think about it, there's a complete pocket there where there's nothing going on. So even if I do want sounds to come through, they don't have to be that loud. It's not competing with anything. Let's have a listen. There's nothing around it, so I don't need it to be too loud. Then from there, we've got another thing playing in between, which is this. I actually absolutely love doing this. That's just a harp, also east-west. Here it is. Very, very nice sounding harp, and all I've done here is just play out a set of notes, kind of like an arpeggiator, and then I've kind of just mixed in notes in between. Yeah, and then it builds up. The way I build one of these is I just listen for all the notes that would make sense in that particular key. It's difficult for me to explain because I don't have a very, very solid theory background. So a lot of what I do is by ear. So I just literally sit there like that and I play the notes in. I suggest getting some sort of ear training if you don't have it. You don't necessarily have to know all your keys or your scales. You just need to have an ear. You need to build your ear and train it. And then I also have these horns coming back in again. Okay. For the second group, so I kind of view these as groups. So this is the first group. Then this is the second group. And that's where I think there's more harp that comes in. That's it. It's just a very simple, cheeky line that's like, hey, I'm here. The drag note there at the end. Right, then the third section. And that last bit is what I learned listening to a lot of EDM, that they have all these weird breakdowns within breakdowns, and this is kind of one of those, so there's nothing else going on here. This is a build-up of bass. No, it's strings. It's there to give you the sense of calm. I'm kind of trying to drop people on their heads again. So we've got this thing where it's like just to give people that sense that things are calming down, but they actually aren't really. Right. Then we've got the snares. The snares are going through. Let me just find those guys. There we go. Trap knock snare. Haven't done anything to it. I think with a lot of these things, I haven't done a lot to them. It's just balancing. Everyone always asks, like, dude, what do you add? What do you do? There's nothing. And here it is, you can see. The things that I usually do a hang of a lot of stuff to, it's 808s every single time. And then if there's any added effects, creative reverb, if there's any delay that needs to be added, and unless I'm trying to control it with the compression, that's pretty much it. Another thing that I added is sound bites, little sound chops in between. So here, that actually might have been me. That one's not me. That's an OVO Vox thing. This one here, I just remember it does not mean, it's also another sample. But these are just things to add into the little spaces. They just give it that feel. Okay, then kick and 808 relationship. It's very similar to all the other kicks and 808 relationships that I have. If we go over to see what it was that I used, it's always the Metro Booming 808 and the OVO kick. It's always these particular ones. I don't know, I've just found over the years that these two work so well together. Right, both of them are rooted here. Just need to find them on the mixer. Here they are. Here's the kick, here's the 808. One has been side chained to the other. The kick has been side chained to the 808. The 808 has the whole limiter situation going on. You can see it's set from limit to compress, side chain to 1, threshold down, ratio just off there at about 1 o'clock. And yeah, now the same story with the distortion that I always do in my tracks that have 808 that needs to be a bit grittier. This is what the 808 and the kick sound like when it's just the 808 plain as is. And then when I add the fast distortion at half mast, just makes it gritty, nice and dirty. Okay, what I've done here is I've opened some space on the Pro Q on my 808 and then a bit of space for the kick. This is what I do before I resort to side chaining. I try and fix the problem. I pretend like I'm gonna be able to carve out enough space in the 808 for the kick. I rarely can perfectly, and then after that I go into the whole side chaining process. So first try to do it with the EQ. If you can't, then go over to side chaining. Right, and then I did a little bit more of the exact same thing. Peculiar. So this 808, I have a Pro Q in the beginning and a Pro Q at the end doing the same thing. And I know why it's here. It's here because this distortion stuffed up whatever I was trying here, so I needed to do it again to get it to sound nice and clean so that the kick could come through. Cool. That's the 808, and then from there, this is just me messing around with the hi-hats. Here we go. There's no maths here. There's no it's just whatever feels good. Right, those are sounds from Decap. Decap has like these amazing sounds. They all sound so damn loud. I don't know how he gets it that way, but they slap, like they hit you hard. So this is a variation of what I did in the DMX prayer beat. At some point in the chorus or in the drop, I always try and bring in a new percussive element just to give the track a bit more of a ride type of sound. So again, it's one of those things you probably won't hear so well because there's just so much going on, but it does add. Okay, so I've just missed out on a couple of sounds here. Just the piano. I love my true pianos. Always set it to diamond. I mess around with a couple of these sometimes. I can see I haven't done much here. And then comes across here, and it's actually been panned off to the one side, you know, just to give it a bit of width. You can also hear it's got a little bit of that vinyl going on to age it. If I take the vinyl off, it sounds very plain. It's okay, it could have worked, but this just gives it something. And then we've got the convolver, which is just giving it that lush sound, like, you know, someone decided to hit 4 or 5 notes on the piano in between all of this chaos. And last sound, actually last two, what's this? This is I really like my really old vintage sounding synthesizers. So this came like this, that had that vintage feel to it. Then the last sound. So moral of the story is get yourself east-west, because it's got all this really nice percussion in it. This one's an old like drum, you know, drum major, drum line kind of roll. And it'll just carry on as long as I hold down that button. And then these are the snares, the individual ones. So that's it. Let's hear that in context. So all in all here, we have a lot of east-west going on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them to create my pseudo orchestra, which I'm very happy about. Then beyond that point, it goes into a section that is new. Yes, it's new. Okay, so the strings come back again. This is another east-west. All it's doing is just reminding you that this is in fact an orchestral sounding song. What did you think was gonna happen? I'm back. Just the convolver going on it, and that's it. Then it kind of just builds back up and then goes back into the chorus. And that's pretty much the beat. One thing I would change about this beat now, probably would maybe get it a few more placements, is if I was to change up what happens in the second drop. They don't like repetitive parts. So it's all cool the way it is until this part here. This is the one gripe I have with the beat. Unfortunately, it's been sent. It's already sitting in the archives. So what I would do is I'd probably add another line here, or I'd remove something. Or what I could even do, just to impress them, is just remove a good chunk of this and just build again. You know, make it sound 100% different, or at least 80% different. Yeah. So that's it. If you're thinking about getting your beats into TV commercials, into games, into, you know, there's a lot of places where they just need beats. You don't always have to go and find yourself a rapper or a singer or someone to put some kind of vocals on the beat. Sometimes the beat can be enough. And if anybody's ever told you that your beats sound a bit too busy, maybe this is the place for you. I don't know. Try it out. Hit me up as well. There are a couple of contacts that I can put you in touch with who might then be able to help you shop your beats. But the big thing about that is it can't be throwaway beats, and yeah, you have to take it super seriously. And the other thing that they want is they want fairly large catalogs. So if you've just started out with beat making, this is probably something that you're just gonna have to keep on the back burner until you've built up enough of a powerful catalog of unused, really good beats that you can then send through to them.